my goal was to just bring wellness to people through this work, and Qigong being kind of the centerpiece. If you practice Qigong, then meditation can be deeper and longer and more profound. You also work on the body. Now your body's functioning better. So now you can operate in the world with your body a lot better. And so that's kind of the root of Zen and tech, is to give that ability, but also give real hardcore technical skills.
Wellness, career, service, whole you. Insights on living a balanced, purposeful life.
Welcome to Whole You TV and the Whole You podcast. My name is Shannon O'Brien. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Master Sheldon Callahan, recognized by the Shaolin Temple with over 30 years of training and experience. At the young age of 16, Sheldon began this journey, which led to the healing wellness work of Qigong. Sheldon was trained directly from Shaolin monks and martial masters in both northern and southern styles of Kung Fu, Qigong, Tai Chi, as well as gymnastics. Master Sheldon is also executive director of Deep Root Center for Spiritual Studies, a temple focused on spiritual and wellness studies, originally a Shaolin Buddhist temple founded by monks from the Shaolin Monastery. Sheldon, thank you so much for spending time with us at Whole You.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
So I read your bio, and I'd love for you to add any additional things.
The thing that's not in my bio is my technology background. I'm a software architect by trade. And that means that I've also been a software developer before that. I've even been what they call a developer evangelist, where I went around the world talking about building software to software engineers and creating events for software engineers. Um, so, um, so I live multiple lives. So when we talk about Zen and tech, I've literally lived that truly. And it's not just something that I say or that's a catchy line. It's literally how I maintain. So sometimes people that work with me really closely, they don't understand how I'm doing all of these things. They're like, wait, hold on. How are you in meetings all day long? And then you're also building your temple, and you're doing all the tech for the temple, and you're running teams of technologists that you've trained on that. And then you're going to go teach for 3 hours and then come home and make dinner. And like, how are you doing all of this, right? And the honest truth is, if it wasn't for my practice, I wouldn't be able to. And that's the reason why I love to share this practice. But I also recognize the fact as a technologist that, I wouldn't be able to do my practice if I didn't make enough money to be able to do my practice. And so
Mhm.
that's the reason why I have a career in tech, is that, obviously things are expensive. So I luckily found a career that suited me, that uh, I felt that I could do, that didn't drain me emotionally, because I'm also an artist and I went to school for art.
Hmm.
And I recognized quickly um, that when I'm doing art, I'm putting my life force into something. So I didn't really want to do that for a company, because it could be very draining and soul sucking, to have someone critiquing my art and scrutinizing my art. But with technology, it either works or it doesn't.
Yeah, because maybe, and I've experienced this myself in the past, burnout. And so it is because I'm giving all of myself, I'm giving 100%. And you're right, it's, you could put hours and hours and hours into a project, and I'm like, yeah, let's scrap that. We're actually not going to do that anymore. And you're like, what? I just,
Right.
and you have to like depersonalize, really detach, which is probably a key word in spirituality, but kind of detach from the outcome when it's someone else paying you to do it, right?
Yeah, and I think, I'm glad that you used that, because obviously in Zen, non-attachment is a thing that we work towards, even when it is those things that are of the heart and blah, 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 because,
Mm.
they kind of say that like too much attachment creates suffering. But with technology, it's easy for me to be a little detached, because again, it's really about outcome. It's like, works or doesn't. And so that's another reason why I feel like adding the Zen part is important. And then just the burnout is real, you know. So what are you doing for yourself? What are you doing for your body? Because this is all head stuff.
And you said that the real, honest, not so secret is your practice. So what does your practice look like?
The center of my practice is Qigong. It allows me to continue to do Kung Fu. It allows me to sit in front of this computer all day long and stare at these screens. Because Qigong is really a healing and maintenance modality. And meditation is really kind of intrinsic to it, even though meditation can be done separate from Qigong. I actually don't recommend meditation alone.
Mm,
And because again, you're dealing with headspace stuff, and you have to address the body because the body is a mind and the mind is a body.
mm. That's really very fascinating, something I've been pondering myself because some schools of meditation would just say, create a blank canvas, see the thought, recognize it, let it go, and just continue to the blank, continue back to your breath. There's all kinds of techniques. And one I heard just this week or was reminded of was, well, it's a movie. You're revisiting thoughts and it's still there and you're processing it and you need to process it and go deep to resolve or solve what that situation that you're thinking of. So there's all these different ways of approaching it, but you're saying none of those, I mean, meditation in and of itself, if you're just sitting there or laying there meditating, it's all mind and the body is required. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I just wrote an article about people asking me why can't I meditate? I can't meditate, blah 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 blah. But this goes back to the Shaolin Temple. So one of the things that people don't always know is that when they hear the word Zen, they think of Japan. That's a Japanese word. It's a transliteration of the Chinese word Chan. Chan comes specifically from Shaolin and the Shaolin Temple. And there was a monk named Bodhidharma that came from India that came and taught these practices that became Zen, but they were originally called Chan and Dhyana in Sanskrit. So when Bodhidharma came to the Shaolin Temple, the monks were in bad shape because all they did was seated meditation and chanting. That's all they did. That's the equivalent of me being on the computer, sitting down and talking on Zoom all day, 8 hours a day. That's terrible for your body. Now, imagine that you're doing this every day. You have poor circulation. So that means that you're going to die young, right? And if the point of meditation and the point of Chan or the point of Zen is to live long enough to reach enlightenment, you can't do that if you're dead,
Mm,
right? And here's the other problem that would happen back in the days. Uh, it was a tumultuous time, and you could be getting water from the well, and you could get jumped by bandits, and they can kill you or your friends or your monks from the temple. And now, what's your meditation going to be like when you have trauma?
mm,
Your
mhm.
meditation is going to be on your trauma. So that's
Right.
the reason why Bodhidharma started teaching these arts to these monks because they needed it. They were in poor health, and so he taught them these yogic practices that now we relate to as qigong,
Mm,
right? Qigong is a combination of more than just what Bodhidharma taught, but these yogic practices became famous throughout China, and they became a part of this work. Also, he taught them the martial arts so they can defend themselves, right? Because you can't be peaceful if you can't defend yourself. So, when Bodhidharma would be teaching his lectures, monks fall asleep. Not falling asleep when you're doing Qigong, right?
mhm,
If you're in this
mhm,
yogic posture, because you have good circulation. And then once you have good circulation, you can meditate for longer.
mm. And are they happening simultaneously? Is that your definition of Tai Chi? Is that it's like meditation with body movement simultaneous?
Yes,
Moving
because
meditation?
moving meditation is a thing. So when you're doing Tai Chi, there's so many things that are happening. There's so many things that you're tracking. And because you're paying attention to these small, minute changes in the body and changes in the movement, you're very present. That's
Mhm,
the point of meditation,
mhm,
presence, to be here right now.
mhm,
Right? What's happening to people is they're either far in the future, which is creating anxiety,
mhm,
or they're in the past, which is creating resentment. And
mhm,
so the goal of Zen or Chan is to bring yourself present to the present moment and not to be thinking way out there. However, if you are thinking way out there, bring yourself present to the fact that you're thinking about the future.
Mm.
It's like, oh, I'm planning. And now you're present to what you're doing. And so you're no longer in the future, even though you're setting up the now for the future. So the first thing I have to make a distinction between Tai Chi and Qigong. I practice both and I actually teach them both together. They work really well together.
Okay.
Qigong is a self cultivation and energy cultivation practice. It looks very much like Tai Chi. So some people wouldn't be able to recognize the difference between the two.
Okay.
Tai Chi is actually a martial art. It's a fighting system. And it utilizes the understanding from Qigong in its awareness and development of its martial abilities, but it is actually a martial art. Most people don't know that. They think, oh, well, this is just a health practice. No, it's not. It's a fighting system. And it's quite mean. It's
Quite
quite mean.
mean.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's so many moves like that I'm doing like, oh, this is play the lute. This is an arm break. Right? It doesn't look like
Gonna
it.
break your
It's
arm.
I'm gonna
Wow.
break your arm. I'm gonna
Wow.
take your elbow and I'm gonna take your forearm and I'm just gonna break it. Like
Wow.
but it's so nice. It's so gentle,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
And
wow.
so what you learn in Tai Chi is how to utilize energy and actually to have energy economy. A lot of external martial arts is using a lot of muscle and a lot of force.
Mm-hmm.
What Tai Chi is teaching you how to use power,
Mm-hmm.
which is different than force, is
Mm-hmm.
utilizing relaxation, is utilizing more what we relate to as the yin principles. We utilize the yang as well, which is the structure, which is the position alignment of the body, but we use the yin, which is relaxation and understanding of energy to create power.
Mm.
And so it doesn't look how we think about power. We think about muscle force, but actually relaxation is power, not muscle force. Muscle force is force.
So the distinction you were making, Qigong is your primary practice, and Qigong is the center to fuel the martial art of Tai Chi. Is that
Yeah,
you said
yeah.
that?
So when you build up this internal awareness, then you can use it. You can't use energy you don't have, and you have to cultivate the awareness of that energy. Once you have the awareness, you can use it for anything that you want. There's multiple types of qigong. There's healing qigong, which is like, you might do for yourself. There's medical qigong. This is how you can use this to heal others. There's sexual qigong. There's martial qigong. There's all of these different types of qigong. So depending on how you want to utilize the energy that you cultivated, you can use it for anything in your life. It's not specific because energy is energy.
So the energy, does everybody have it inside and it's just dormant? And so you're saying bringing awareness to your energy, and you can't use energy that you don't have. Does everybody have it, or how how do they get how do
Everybody
they
has it, they're
access
just
it?
not aware of it. So if you're
Okay.
breathing, then you have it, right?
Mm.
So the word qi literally means in Chinese the breath, right? So my Chinese medicine teacher taught me that qi is just blood oxygen. We don't have to make it mystical, magical powers, right? However, there's ways that I can influence the energy in my body, and one of them is through thinking,
Mhm.
right? Because this is the grand computer that controls all of the parts.
Mhm.
And so, including my autonomic system, all the stuff that's just happening on its own, like breathing, I can breathe automatically or I can influence it, right? I can hold my breath, I can breathe out, I can breathe in, I can breathe in hard, I can breathe in soft, I can make my breath shallow. Like, there's all these different things that I can do with my breathing. That's going to give my organs energy through oxygen.
Mhm.
And also the pumping the blood and circulation is going to bring all the nutrients to the rest of my body. So chi is actually very practical and very regular. It's normal. There's nothing special or extraordinary about it um, when we think about it as that.
Mhm.
I think sometimes people want to make it this magical unicorn that's going to have you flying and jumping off buildings, but it's not. It's very regular stuff. So everybody does have it. Not everybody cultivates it. If you understand that all of those advanced things are based off of something very basic and very practical,
Mhm.
then you realize that. So sometimes my students are looking at me like I'm magical, but I have a saying. I say advanced kung fu is the basics done well,
Mm.
right? It's like there's no advanced moves. There's a series of basics that contribute to this thing that you're now seeing.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with software. Software is just ones and zeros every time. It's just on and off. And that's just yin and yang. Literally, you put that together, now you got advanced thought. Now we have artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence isn't magic either, but it can appear so
Right.
to the uninformed person about
Hmm.
what actually is going on. And the fact that literally this is still ones and zeros.
Yeah, the practicality, I think, is what's going to be very relevant and useful for everybody listening today. That the practicality, getting back to how do you find that energy to sit in front of these screens all day and survive your work day and produce good work. And I think that that's what people want to do. And coming back to my earlier statement about, um, bugging out or burning out when trying to use technology and maybe pouring too much of myself into it. You used the word trauma. I have found, and I'm curious to hear if you've come across this in your work with Zen and Tech, people who are experiencing some trauma when they're interacting with technology. And I don't know where it's coming from. It's as if my body is like taken over. Um, Sometimes it's even when I'm logging into a regular Zoom webinar and I just don't know the password and I feel overcome, like I'm being jumped on the way to the well, and I just don't know where it's coming from or how to overcome it, other than, the advice would probably be breathe, or is there something else that I can recognize the trauma that is induced or evoked when I'm interacting with something that's now very, very commonplace. Every day we're interacting with our phones, with the Zoom, with technology, but that trauma doesn't seem to be going away. And have you come across that? Is that a common thing that people are experiencing? And how do you
Yeah.
and that people overcome it?
I mean, anytime something's not working, right? Like it induces that feeling. Just imagine that you were looking at your arm and you were trying to get it to move and you couldn't get it to move,
Mm.
right? Like like when you have an expectation of things working a particular type of way and then they don't, and it's crunch time. I need my arm right now, right?
Mhm.
That can induce that feeling of trauma. And these tools are really an extension of ourselves. So Zoom is just an extension of our voice. We're just trying to communicate. I just need to say this to these people, and now I can't. And so it's similar to having a limb not working. So it can feel very disconcerting at those times. And obviously, stepping back, breathing, all of that stuff helps. And we all go through it. And sometimes there's nothing really that we can do about those moments when we're in those moments.
Mhm.
Is what do we do after? So, example, dog gets into a fight, goose gets into a fight. What do they do after? They shake, right? They shake all of that stuff
Right.
out, right? There's two reasons why those exercises are really effective. First thing is it calms down your central nervous system. It's number one.
Mhm.
The second thing is it helps with your blood flow, right?
Mhm.
And circulation. And the other thing is it just kind of gets rid of your ego, right? Because when you're shaking around and you're moving like this, you kind
You
of
know
can't
what's
be
so
super
cool?
egotistical about it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So you just kind of got to let it go, especially if you start
yeah,
making noises with it going, like
yeah,
you just,
yeah.
you know. And so, you don't think of a dog having a lot of ego or a goose having a lot of ego. They just kind of are being. And so it brings us back to being a human being, not a human doing, as my mother would say.
Back to your practice,
Mhm.
it's an everyday thing that you're incorporating into your inner work affects your outer work and the work that you do at your job and in your businesses. Tell us a little bit more about your businesses and your offerings and how you help your students.
Yeah. My overall organization is Deep Root Center for Spiritual Studies, and that was the temple that I inherited from the monks. But I saw a lot more um, intersection with people's lives, how this practice could work. So my goal was to just bring wellness to people through this work, and Qigong being kind of the centerpiece of that. And Qigong, again, allows for meditation. Meditation also has its positive impacts. And so if you practice Qigong, then meditation can be deeper and longer and more profound, right? But then you also work on the body. Now your body's functioning better. So now you can operate in the world with your body a lot better. And so that's kind of the root of Zen and tech is to give that ability, but also give real hardcore technical skills. And so in our courses, we will talk about certain topics and go into them in depth. So I've taught software engineering classes. I've taught Salesforce. That was the first thing that we taught was
I
Salesforce.
could have used that.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm working on a new one for design using Canva, and wanting to give people skills. But again, the problem with just giving people like technical skills is that when they reach that burnout, they don't have any tools, right? They don't know how to work on themselves. If you're working on a computer all day long, how do you rest your eyes?
Mm,
How do you bring blood flow to your eyes? I got these earphones on, cutting off the circulation to my ears. What can I do with my ears? And also, our ears reflect our entire body. So by massaging my ears, I can actually impact the rest of my body, right? So like these are things that I want people to know how to do. So in Zen and Tech, I don't just teach the technology. I teach that then I also teach Zen and
mm,
Chan. So I'll
mm,
teach people how to meditate, but I'll teach you how to prepare for meditation. And the preparation for meditation is Qigong or some form of Qigong. And actually, that's the point of yoga. The point of yoga is for meditation.
hmm.
Get your body out of the way first, and then you can meditate. Just like yoga, Qigong is a yoga. It's a unification of mind and body.
So what is the best entry point for people to learn more about your work and participate, get started themselves?
Thedeeproot.org is a way that you can find about everything that we do. I have online materials. I have a thing called the Inner Circle where people can meet with me in a mastermind group once a month. I do an article once a month, and I also have a podcast once a month that people can listen to, so they can learn about all the stuff. Like I talk about meditation. I did one on energy centers, like the Lao Gong, which is a real big energy center, especially for us tech people, right? Teaching people how they work, how energy works. I just taught NBA team Qigong to help them, and won the game. So, so super
Results.
excited about that. Results, yeah.
Oh,
And these are athletes, but they're also under a lot of stress, right?
hmm.
That's why they brought me in to help to teach them some things that can help them with uh, stress management, but also shows how they can have effortless power, right? Which they need. So Deep Root is the best entry point. But if people want to learn about technology from me with that, then they can also go to zenandtech.org. Sign up for our mailing list. I have a new course that's coming out. It's not up yet, but it'll be up soon for the Canva course that I'm doing. And then the other thing that I'm doing, I partnered with two other Qigong masters, and we have a website called, or a project called the Eight Piece. And the Eight Piece is the most famous Qigong set. It's called the Badwan Jin, or the eight section brocade. And so we all come from different lineages, but everybody has a version of this thing. So
Hmm.
we got together and we collaborated and we brought all of our information together and evaluated all of those different things and came up with a framework in order for people to get the best out of the Badwan Jin.
Wow.
Uh, so that's a really exciting one. So that's www.the8piece.com.
That sounds fantastic. So there's sounds like there's a lot of different entry points depending on what people's perceived
Interests are.
needs are at the
Yeah,
time. Yeah. But
yeah,
the Qigong, in your opinion, is like the root, the deep root, or the center that
yeah. It's
drives
a
all the
it's a
energy.
centerpiece. I'll just put it to you this way: it's the thing that allows all the other things to work.
Hmm.
Right? I probably would have had to stop doing martial arts years ago if I didn't practice Qigong. Because, martial arts, you can get injured. You need a healing practice. So in Shaolin, they have this concept called Chan Wu Yi. So Chan is the word Zen that everybody knows. That's the mindfulness, that's the meditation. And so a true system will have some form of mindfulness. The woo is the martial arts or the physical activity. This is you actually utilizing your body, building muscle, exerting power, force, all these different things. And then the yi is the healing arts. And so
Mm,
that's where the Qigong comes in, is the healing part, but that's also like the Chinese medicine and all these different things like that. So our system has Zen or Chan. It has martial arts to teach you how to protect this life force of yours,
mhm,
right? Because I think sometimes people are too focused on martial arts as violence
mhm,
as opposed to self-protection and self-cultivation.
mhm,
And it's the same exact reason for Qigong. Qigong is about protecting this life force. And so they really have the same purpose. And so I value this life force. I value this vessel that I've been given, that I have for a short period of time on loan, and that I'm going to have to give back to the universe when I'm done. So I want to keep it in good order for as long as I can. And so that's why I do these practices. I need to keep my mind together. I need to keep my body together, and I need to be able to heal myself and my community. So
mhm. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for all the work that you do and for sharing it with everyone and for our listeners today. And I'll put all of the links that you provided below. And I'm sure that many people are going to want to reach out and learn more. So thank you
awesome.
for your time today, Master Sheldon.
Thanks for having me. And I can't wait to have you on my show in the inner circle.
Oh, great. I'm really grateful to have met you. And you're, again, just doing incredible work. And it's a message that I need to hear, and I think so many others do as well, is just to keep the human side, but go deeper into the energy and the wellspring of what's going to empower people into being more effective in all that they do.
Yeah, I mean, I think technology, we'll be able to figure it out.
Mhm.
This machine, this is the hard one, so.
Exactly.
These episodes explore topics related to pursuing your life's work and living a balanced, purposeful life. We dive into subjects related to wellness, career, and service. We hope you feel engaged in the conversations, share your comments, and click subscribe.